Hi guys, this is Thomas with another update for Visual MASM. I'm still absolutely super stoked about being able to create Windows applications in Visual MASM and doing this not just in the assembly code but also now the visual portion. It's still not completely finished yet, of course. I wanted to show you the visual designer on the progress. I guess you can consider this part 3. In any case, I'm just so freaking excited. I'm pumped. I just wanted to show you how it's progressing, and hopefully I can get that excitement over to you guys. Think about it. You being able to create Windows applications with absolute ease, just like you can do nowadays with Delphi IDE or Visual Studio IDE. Where we have been spoiled for many years, right? Where you can easily create Windows forms, drag and drop components, and then write the code and the event handlers for these components. So in order to do this visually, I wanted to have that same look and feel that you can do in Delphi or in Visual Studio. So to better do this, I'm gonna show you what I have today. So let's before I continue with the visual designer, let's keep see what I made the changes from last time. Well, of course, the obvious thing is that you're looking at the blue or the Web 2 theme, not the dark theme this time. So in order to change this, all you have to do is go to the Tools menu, go to Options, Themes, and then select the skin, and then select the one I picked was Web 2 down here. If I reset this to the default one, which is the dark theme like I showed you last time, which is really awesome. This is where I usually prefer it in the evening when it gets darker. I love that kind of look and feel anyway. So I'm going to switch it back to the one I had before. So it's Web 2 here. Click OK. Oops. I also want to change the actual code editor portion, right? So because it's a lighter theme, I'm going to switch it to blue. So I created this blue theme to adjust the code editor colors so it's kind of coherent with the look and the feel. Now, you can change all the color options for the code editor. If you go into the colors subfolder at the Visual MASM, I have two. One is called default, the other one is called blue JSON for now. If you open up the blue JSON file, you can manually modify this until you can do this within Visual MASM with a nice color dialogs and all that. Until I have that in place, you can do this manually in the JSON text file here. So, for example, for the directives, let's see, where are they? Right here, right? So for the foreground, you can pick any color you want, hexadecimal values, and what style of the font you want, bold in this case. And then all the other color options. So you can modify this if you want to. If you don't like the one I shipped here, not a big deal. So I'll add more over time. I have like 5-6 other ideas that I want to put in, in terms of the color editor itself. But let's go to the more important features first before we, digging into fine-tuning the colors. So let's go to the cooler portion, which is creating a dialog form visually in Visual MASM. And that's the whole point, right? So one of the reasons really is that I created Visual MASM is so that you can easily create Windows forms, any kind of dialog. Basically, you have access to the complete API on the Windows. Win32 API or Win64 API. You have no limits really with the assembly code itself, as you know. You have access to the bare metal, to the CPU, and you can pretty much do anything you want. So how cool is this? Think about it. You can do this visually in assembly, but have the absolute power of assembly behind it. I mean, I'm still stoked and I'm just freaking pumped up. Okay, let's keep going. So let's create a dialog. You can either do this in two ways. You can go to File menu, then New, Other, and then click on the Windows tab here and then click dialog, click OK. Or the way I do it usually is you right click on a project and then select add new and then dialog file. If I click this here, so it will open up the Visual Designer portion. And if you look in the upper right, it added the dialog3 dialog file. The DLG extension is just a text. It's literally just a text file. And since Visual MASM is programmed in Delphi, at least for now, the text that you see inside this DLG file is the actual component text that Delphi would have generated if you would have done it in Delphi. So you can modify this text file. All these properties you see on the right here, all these are exposed inside this DLG file. It just basically says that the attributes of each control in the form. So I'm going to make this a little bigger. If you noticed in the upper and on the left side here is the measurements in pixels. Later on I'll add so that you can modify this to either display inches or centimeters. So I make this form bigger. If I just test this here in the upper left corner, if I click this, you can see you can run this form. Of course, there's no functionality, just to see what it looks, the look and the feel would be if this would have been a fully implemented application. So I'm going to close this. All right, let's go to the good portions. So I included a few standard controls for now. Labels or text, button, the edit text boxes, checkbox, radio, combo, list view, group box, and scroll bar. There's a few more, but for now I'm going to leave these in here. So in order to drag and drop, you just grab the button, drag it down here and let go. Or you can double click it and then it creates a button down here. Double click it again. You can click it a few times and you get more controls. Oops. All right. So if you notice in the upper right here, there's the Object Explorer. You'll see every parent control can have child controls, right? Just like in normal Windows applications. So the form itself contains these 4 buttons. You can either click here, left click, it will highlight the buttons. Or of course you can click on the buttons individually. If you noticed, the grid, these little dots here is the grid, and the grid distance between each dot is 8 pixels. So if I drag the button around, it will snap to the grid. You can turn that off. I don't think I exposed this yet to snap or not to snap. I like it when it snaps here. It's easier to manually adjust controls visually so that they're aligned properly. And if you notice also, if the control is perfectly aligned in the center, you'll see the horizontal line here on the top edge and on the bottom edge of the controls. If I go out of the alignment, the lines will disappear. And as you're probably used to other IDEs, you see little handles on each control that you can resize, like so. If I want to make, say, 2 controls the same size, what I can do is with the left mouse button, I can drag this control around the controls I want to select, like that, 2 controls. Right click and then size them. Say I want for the width, I want to the largest and also for the height. So now both of them are perfectly sized. Again, if you want to select multiple controls, you can drag a box around them and then drag them like so. You can also manually select them. If I hold down the Shift key, then select one, left click one, and then I click another one, maybe a third one, and then let go of the Shift key and you can select these. That will be helpful the more controls you have on the form. There's also a way to fine-grained movements of the controls. If you hold down the control button, which I'm doing now, and then the down arrow key here, if you can see, the control will move pixel by pixel, so outside of the grid steps. If you really perfectly want to align them with absolute control with the mouse, with the keyboard, if you hold down the control key and the shift key, which I'm doing now, and then move the control, it will go by the pixel step, which is 8 pixels to the left, to the right, up or down. You can do that also. Alright, so that's the placement of the controls. What else can I tell you? So yeah, you can, of course, you can select them, and then you can also lock the controls in place. So now that it's locked, if you can see the lock symbols up here, I can't move them anymore, right? This is helpful when you have a bunch of controls. You spend a lot of time moving them, making them all perfect looking. You don't want to get it messed up, so you want to lock them in place. Unlock it so you can move them around. You can also group them. Highlight the controls you want grouped. Click the group button. Oh, I don't have any help text here. I need to fix this. So once they're moved and you're messing on with another control, now that they're operating as a group without having them to highlight, which is also helpful to move them around as you design your dialogues. Very helpful. Or ungroup them again, like so. Again, click this run button so you can see what it feels like at runtime. Alright, one other thing I'm going to show you is, let's drag a group box here, make it a little bigger, and as the group box is highlighted, I'm going to double click the checkbox one time, place it here, highlight the group box, double click again, another checkbox, maybe one more, like so. One thing that's helpful is when you have, again, a lot of controls on a form, you want to highlight only the 3 checkboxes within the parent control. In this case, I have the group box containing 3 checkboxes. You can see this up here. If I move this down a little bit, see the group box. If I click this, it highlights the group box and it contains the 3 child controls. But if say I want to move these 3 around here, so I'm going to hold down the control key and then enclose them in a box. Let go of my control key, and now I can move them around very nicely. This will be helpful when you have parent controls, instead of individually highlighting them. Make sure you don't accidentally highlight the parents, right? That kind of stuff. So that's a little tip. Yeah, you've seen the Object Explorer. Oh, I didn't give my form a name yet, so maybe I should give it a name here. FIM main. There you go. So right below you can see all those attributes or the properties of a component, the form. Say I want to change the background color. Let's see here, color. Double click. You can create custom colors. Let me just do something wild. Like so. No, that's not good. Alright. There's some built-in property editors that are already built in. But now keep in mind, so what experienced developers will see that these properties, they're not really true WinAPI compliant or pure WinAPI properties. Some of these properties are, or a lot of them actually created by Delphi with additional built-in functionality. You don't have those available in a true Win32 application built in assembly, because you would have to add this functionality yourself, right? Unless you use a library that you created. So my next future updates, I will remove the ones that are not pure Win32 API compliant attributes, and also rename them accordingly so that they are properly named according to the MSDN documentation when you do need to set attributes on a control. So you wanna have this correctly matched with the documentation and what actually you can do using the WinAPI and the styles, etc. for each control. So I will remove these and then rename accordingly. So right now I actually remove the anchors property already, which you don't see. So the same thing goes for the events. And this is the portion I have not hooked up yet. So the events will be renamed or changed accordingly. So one of the main things you want to do in Visual MASM is you for example, press a button here, and I double click the button, like so. You can see it generates the name of the name of the event based on the name of the control. Since I didn't rename it, right? I should name it something else. Say, let's name this button. Okay. Let's delete these here. Move this down here. And call this one button cancel. The text, I'm going to call it cancel. And this one I want to call OK. Now, if I double click, you can see it generates button OK click, which would have been the name of the event, but not decided yet what it should call it. I think this looks good. So the only thing is it doesn't have generate the actual code behind it. So the idea is when you double click this, it should have jumped to the assembly source code file. So you can imagine it would jump to the assembly code, generates the event handler, and you would have the function right here listed as well. So it would point you right to it. So that's really very similar to the way Delphi would work, the Delphi IDE or the Visual Studio IDE for the WinForms or the WPF applications. That you double click a control and it will generate the event handler for you. I want the same behavior basically, so that it's easy to use and create this. All right, so now again, I'll hook this up later. I'll name this properly. But I wanted to give you a feel so you can play with this, see how it feels for you, if it works out, if I missed anything. I'm sure I missed something. Oh yeah, by the way, don't do copy and paste yet. If I press Control C, I think it will mess up, it will crap up. It will give an exception. It's not finished yet. Let's see what else. Tab order I might remove. I'm not sure yet. Anyway, so this is the first version of the visual portions here. Also, the .rc files are not generated yet. So this again is a dialog file. Is something that really Visual MASM needs for creating the stream of the dialog itself, so that it stays in sync with the visual portion, and then the .rc file, which is a text file that eventually gets compiled to a resource file, and that resource file gets linked into the final Windows executable. So you'll have two files, right? So you have the dialog file, and then you have the resource, the .rc file, which is a text file. So those are the two portions I need to add. I think that's all I wanted to show you for today. Show you a little bit of progress here, what I'm making. I'm super excited. I just can't wait to see a more final Visual MASM portion, so that you can start really using this and be also productive in creating some cool Windows applications. So at some point in the future, when Visual MASM is pretty much usable the way I think it is, or it should be, then I also like to start creating Windows applications in assembly and show you. I'm not, of course, a super expert. I'm sure I make mistakes like everybody else, and I wanted to show you different things you can create. Of course, there's no limits in assembly, so that's just the cool part, right? I just can't wait to get to this portion to show you guys. Okay, let's create a Windows app, do the visual portion, whoop out several dialogs, and then let's create the event handlers, and then organize it in such a way, even for large projects, that you can create some serious applications, even serious Windows applications, especially nowadays with communications to a REST-based backend, any kind of TCP communication for that matter, how you would do that, or anything else you can imagine. Sky's the limit here. Anyways, I'm drifting. Hopefully you liked it. Let me know what you think. I'll put the link back down in the description so you can download the latest version. Talk to you later. Take care. Bye.